Hello and welcome to Game Brain, a board game podcast about our gaming group. I'm Ben Mandelker, and here with me remotely, Mr. Jordan Saya. Hi, Jordan. How are you?
Hi, Ben. From miles away. It's good to see you.
You are from miles away. You're in like a distant land. You know, in LA, if you're not in the same neighborhood, everyone is like 5 hours away.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm in like the suburbs now. It's an interesting place. There was a high school party down the street from me until like 4 a.m. last night. And we were like, are we middle-aged? Should we call the cops? Like, it was a new experience.
But you're like in hipster suburbs because like you're where all the hipsters are.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's the suburbs.
Very hipstery here.
It doesn't feel like true suburbs where you are. Like true suburbs would be, I still think another like 30 minutes out, down the 210. That's the real suburbs. You're just in hipster suburbs. You're like in the place where hipsters go because they want to have a little patch of land and like maybe a chicken. I'm not saying that's what you guys are, and you guys are not hipsters like that necessarily, but you're around them.
Yeah, I think that's right. And there's maps of LA that try and characterize every neighborhood as a neighborhood in New York, and we're solidly in the like Brooklyn zone of LA.
Yeah, you were in the Brooklyn zone, which is funny because you used to live in the Brooklyn zone of New York, right? At some point, didn't you?
No, we were in Manhattan. We were in Lower East Side, so we were in the still hipstery, but it was the Manhattan zone of New York.
You're in the Brooklyn zone of Manhattan.
That's
at that
right.
point.
That's exactly right. We were in the green point of Manhattan is where we were. It was
so fun. We're not diving deep on anything, but we have some fun plays that we've done recently. We have some plays of some games that I had never played before, Lightning Train, Shinjuku, but we also have some classics, like, for instance, guess what? Another TI4 experience in the can. Fresh.
So fun.
Fresh 24 hours ago, so we'll get to that. And then you have some games also that you've played, some classics for you. They're not really classics, new classics for you. So shall we dive into the plays, Jordan?
Let's do it. And I'm most excited to hear your take on the latest hit, or not, as it may be, Lightning Train from the designer of Dune Imperium and Clank, right? Two of the biggest hit games over the last 5 or 10 years. He's come out with a new one. This is Paul Dennen, right?
Yes. Thank you for being on top of that while I scramble to actually go to the BGG page. One of the fun parts about recording this remotely is that we can both be on our computer and be like looking things up on the run. So this game, as you mentioned, it's a Gen Con release or Gen Con-esque release. It has a lot of hype behind it. In fact, one might call it a hype train behind it. And pause for laughter.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm laughing.
Thank you. I'm like, Jordan.
Yeah, sorry. I have to be more audible with my laughter. I'm like chuckling.
I demand vocal laughter on this podcast at all times. This game, when I first heard about it, I was very excited. Now, even though I think Clank is fine, I enjoyed my 1 or 2 plays of it. It's a very nice, fun game. It just wasn't totally my thing. I would always play it, like no problem. And Dune Imperium, as I've mentioned ad nauseum on this podcast for years, I really hated. And then I came to realize it was more of a Ben emotional issue and not a game issue. And now I have actually come back around, and now I greatly enjoy the game. Maybe it's too early for me to say I love it, but I had a huge amount of fun when we played it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So bringing that in, it's like, okay, Clank, Dune Imperium, great pedigree. The pitch on Lightning Train is that it's a train game with pick up and deliver, route building, which usually goes hand in hand with train games, but also bag building, which is, I guess this designer is really into like his bag and card deck building kind of stuff, right? So when you heard that,
and those
pitch,
are really your portion of the pie chart or whatever, right? Those are the mechanics you love.
Yeah, I actually really like deck building and bag building, even though I don't lean into them very much. Like, I don't have too many deck builders. I only have like 2 or 3 bag builders.
Sure.
But I enjoy the experience of those, right? I enjoy just the fun of like what's gonna happen next. They're always like a little chaotic, but they're fun, right?
Yeah.
When you first heard about this game, what were your thoughts?
I was really excited too because I like Clank. I think over the years there's been four or so iterations of Clank and they've gotten better and better. And I
Hmm.
like Dune Imperium Uprising a good deal. I think it's quite a fun game. And I also love train games and I like games in particular that have pick up and deliver. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's actually a little bit underutilized. Age of Steam is the main one we play, but when we play 18xx or Imperial Steam, there isn't really, well, Imperial Steam kind of has pick up and deliver. Anyway, I was
kind of.
excited about that
But
aspect of it.
yeah, I actually am too. I'm glad to hear you say that because I think pick up and deliver is a really fun mechanic, and I think it kind of gets shat on a bit in board gaming. Like I just feel like when you say pick up and deliver, I don't know. Sometimes when I say these things, I feel like how much is this? Or is this reality or is this me like projecting some sort of like Ben thing onto the board gaming community? But I do feel like in general, I've seen a lot of videos where people are like, ugh, pick up and deliver. I think it's sort of viewed as this dry concept that's like pedantic or repetitive or annoying. And I
Yeah,
actually find it to be
totally.
I think it's a very vibrant and exciting mechanic, you know?
I agree. I think in particular, a lot of train games abstract it out, but actually, like your run in an 18xx game where you're getting value from hitting cities, that's an abstraction of you delivering things along those train routes, right? Whether they're people or
Yeah.
goods. And I think it's fun to have the actual mechanic on, or the actual piece on the board and you're seeing it move.
Yes.
Autobahn does a great job. And the other piece of
Great,
it that's fun is when
great
you're
call.
competing over finite goods that need to be delivered, like Age of Steam. Like that's a fun
Yes.
competition that again is abstracted out. There's infinite people to deliver or goods in 18xx, right?
And it's
So
very, yeah. And pick up deliver is very, it could be very intense because you are, everyone's racing for kind of everything on the board at all the same time, and you don't know when you should be engaging in what race at what time, and so there's a lot of interaction from it. And on top of that, I just have a thing where I sort of like when game systems create like a dynamic flow state on a board where it's like, oh, you picked up and you delivered that to this place, and now this good is over in this spot, and now that creates an opportunity for someone else to pick it up or whatever. Like I love all that stuff, everything that comes with pick up and deliver. So naturally, Lightning Train, like a combination of pick up and deliver and bag building, is like a very exciting concept to me. So let me tell you about how it plays.
yes.
Essentially, you have this map of North America. The theme, I'm not even really sure about the theme because this was our friend Candace's copy, and so I didn't like sit and read the rule book. But it's sort of like a North America, USA, Canada kind of map. I think the lightning, the box cover is very mystical. Not mystical. It's like it's a train and there's lightning and there's like some sort of tornado that the train seems to be coming out of. And I think the
Yeah, it looks
idea
like a
is,
Halloween theme almost, like a Halloween train.
I think they had to like add some sort of like, it's like they had to add some sort of like magical element to it to explain the bag building in a sense.
Okay, sure.
I'm just looking at the blurb now to see it doesn't even really explain it, but whatever. We all have these lightning trains. And essentially, you have a board that looks like Ticket to Ride. Like it looks just like Ticket to Ride. You have cities and you have routes in between them, and you see actual like spots where you put down pieces that will be your trains. You know, like the way Ticket to Ride, you put down your plastic. In this case, these are all cardboard chits. So that's how the map looks, and that's the map you're going to be filling in with routes and train stations and goods.
Right.
So your bag is what you have are some train cars, and you also have some chits, and everything's the same size, so they all feel the same, right, in your bag. And so some chits will let you get more train pieces. Some chits will let you build trains on like rough terrain or mountains. Just different
Okay.
chits give you different powers. And the chits often have money on them. And so you can use that money to buy more chits for your bag. And those chits will, again, just build your bag out in classic bag building stuff.
Sure.
There's also a lot of the chits are multicolored because the map is multicolored. So if you have like a red chit, then that means you can build maybe a train route in the red area, or maybe you can build a train station in the red area, or things like that.
Okay.
And then there's also kind of like a Taverns of Tiefenthal thing where you, instead of putting your stuff on the map, you can put it on your player board, and you sort of like, if you fill up enough stuff on your player board, you can flip something over. Like there's all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially what you're doing is you're just reaching into your bag, pulling out pieces, and you're using the train pieces essentially to build routes or train stations, and you're using the other pieces to buy other pieces that give you dynamic elements, etc. And then like actions that you can do is like one of the actions that you might find on your chits is to deliver something. So if there's like corn over by Toronto and you can deliver it over to New York, let's say, if that's where a station is. That's the vibe. Does that make sense right now? So far, did I get
kind of? I have two questions. One is, do you need multiple chits to build? Like you need the train car chit and the red chit to build the train car in the red area? Is that how it works?
To build a route, you just need to, if I remember correctly, isn't it funny? It's been like 4 days and I'm like, to build a route, I think you can just take the pieces from your player board and put them onto the map. So you have to be able, unlike Ticket to Ride, if I remember Ticket to Ride, it's been years. When you build a route, you have to do it all the way at one moment. Is that is that how Ticket to Ride works also?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think you pay the cards all at once, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you sort of have to have accumulated enough of these pieces to put them on the map.
I see.
So that's how you do that.
And how many chits do you get to draw? Oh, sorry, no.
You get to draw 5 chits, but then there are special chits that have like a plus sign on them, and they go on like sort of a separate area. So you can sort of get bonus chits that don't go towards the 5 that you draw, which is very Taverns of Tiefendal also, you know, like if you can do that thing on the tables or whatever. So ultimately, yeah, you're what you pull out of your bag is going to determine how much you can build, where you can build, what you can deliver, and things like that. So really very cool. Like I loved pulling out those pieces and trying to figure out like what the puzzle was going to be of like where I'm going to build everything. Very promising and exciting. That being said, I really dislike this game massively.
Right. Yeah. I want to hear this is the turnaround. So why didn't you like it?
I really hated it.
And that's a strong reaction, I should say. I don't often hear you say I hated it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Okay, maybe hate is too strong, but I also feel like I've sort of been having this thought, Jordan, recently of like I want to sort of be more full-throated in my opinions.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, it's great.
Because like, I mean, I feel like I am fairly full-throated, but I feel like sometimes I'm so concerned about yucking on people's yums that I just don't want. Like there's a line between being respectful to other people's like experiences and then also I think being a board game critic or a podcaster of just saying like this was my true opinion, you know.
100%.
I had a
think
really
it's different
bad
if you're like
time.
in the game room and you're like, oh wow, you just bought this game and I hate it. Or if you're on the podcast, because like on the podcast, you're the whole point is to share your opinions with people.
Yeah,
and maybe save people $70 or however much this game costs if it's really bad or whatever. You know, it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's valuable.
I think it's tricky with board gaming because board gaming is so social that you never want to be the one who's like, I don't like it. And then you sort of are worried, like, am I going to get invited back? You know, so you want to have a good attitude. So I think what I'm trying to do is find a balance between having a good attitude at the table, but when it comes time to professing my opinion, being like, this is really how I felt, though. I really didn't like it. Yeah. And I really didn't like Lightning Train. I'm not going to lie.
What was wrong with it? What didn't work for you?
At first, I was enjoying it, but there were some issues right at the bat, which I think we're not going to, pun intended, derail it, but like red flags, which was confusing iconography. It's not. It's like, or maybe not confusing iconography. Iconography was fine. It was graphic design was not helpful. This is one of those games where there are a lot of little actions you can do that you can pay certain things for, and they give you a player aid and they say these are the actions you can take, and it just is like a bullet point list of things you can do with no reminders of if you do this you have to pay this, if you do this you can do this. So it's constant like, wait, can I do this? If this chick comes out, is the power available for the entire round? Hey, I just did this thing on my board. Is this like a one-time thing, even, or because that thing is a one-time thing, but is this a one-time thing? Do the pieces stay on here? There's just sort of like a game flow confusion that was like it never quite went away over the course of the game, and we're all good gamers, so it's not,
that's a pain.
You know that feeling when you're like I wish the iconography there suggested one thing, but here it doesn't. It's like like, oh,
when you get the Transgalactica problem.
Yeah. and I will say I like this less than Transgalactica.
Oh yeah.
Because I felt like Transgalactica was a good game that was undermined by really bad graphic design, but like you fix the graphic design and the game is like really awesome. I felt this was a mediocre to bad game that also had bad graphic design in areas.
Yeah.
Like you just know it. You know, like when graphic design is helping you and helping you sort of like lubricate the experience so you can just play it. And this time it was just like question after question and like repeat questions because like how much does that cost again? Oh, when you get that chit, you immediately do this thing. Now this chit, is it like does something happen when you draw it or does something happen when you play your turn? Like it's just constant questions like that all the time. That was annoying, but not a game breaker. It was just annoying, but it was like okay. The first problem was that the downtime was terrible. It was terrible. Wow. I always knew what I wanted to do on my turn. And so like, because I have a lot of time to think about it, but like, you know, you pull up 5 pieces and there's some things you can do. To, right? But like, you sort of know what you're going to like, you know, it's like, okay, I can see what my options are because I'm limited by like a lot of things. So it's like,
oh, I was thinking you would draw the 5 and then you'd have to figure out what to do. And that's what caused the downtime. Is that not right?
Some people do. Some people do have to figure it out. And then sometimes you don't have to. So I would sit there and wait like 15 minutes sometimes. It felt like 10 to 15 minutes waiting. And it wasn't just me. The other person to the right of me also was like, and I was just trying to be chill. And at one point he was like, the person to the right of me was like, he said something like, so, like there's a lot of downtime in this game. And I was like, thank you for saying it. I didn't want to be the person at the table, but I was like, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And it just, I think there's good downtime and there's bad downtime.
Sure.
To me, good downtime is like in TI4 when it's not your turn, but you're constantly like looking to see what other people are doing, or you're looking at your tech trees and you're coming up with scenario after scenario after scenario. Like, I'm going to do this, but if Jordan does that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This was just, it was just, you're just sitting there doing nothing at all. And I hated that.
Yeah.
But also you're also really, you're bound in many ways. And actually, I'm going to give a big asterisk to this. I've only had one play, and I would not be surprised if there was a counter to some of the things I now say of like, well, you have the various tools to do X, Y, and Z. But my impression was these chits come up and you're kind of like bound to them. It's like you can really only do what the chits tell you to do.
Right. So not all like flexibility.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, I want to extend my rail line here. I have the 3 cars I need to do my rail line, but I don't have the contract to let me do that. Or now I have the contract, but I don't have the cars. And so it's like, you're constantly kind of like, well, I'm going to just do the best with what I can with these bits, which is fine also in and of itself. But when you're also trying to do that with pick up and deliver, it's kind of annoying because you're like, I need to build this route, but I just can't. So I'm just doing this. And I'm very much when life gives you lemons, like make something out of it. I love that in the game, but this one was not doing that for me. So I found that
maybe a mismatch between the action mechanic and the like gameplay on the board mechanics or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I found that the pick up and deliver was not really crackling. And I kept on thinking to myself, when you have that downtime, you think about things like, I could be playing a better version of this if I played Age of Steam or Railways of the World or Autobahn, like really anything. It's like, the game was not giving me the fun of pick up and deliver. It seemed like the game was promising the shared incentives of like, oh, I build this rail here, and then you get to build a rail station. In fact, many times like those games thrive in that way. If I build a route, you will then be incentivized, a la Brass, to build a train station where that will have some sort of goods demand on my route. You want to use my infrastructure, right? Like that's the fun of those games, is taking advantage of the things that people build. But like if you have a bag building situation that's like, well, I know you want to take advantage of that, but you have to build in the Midwest now because that's the only contract you got. It's kind of like, oh, okay.
Right.
Cool.
Right. I mean, in any game, if your components, like your hand or whatever, don't give you choices and you're kind of railroaded, Pause for
Pun
laughter.
intended. We're really killing it.
Then that's not going to be fun. But especially in a game where you're trying to build something with shared incentives, because if players can't react to what you've done or race you to what you've done, or any of those things, then it's just not going to work. So it sounds like
That's what
it
it
sounds
felt
like a
like.
mismatch between a train game and a deck building game that just doesn't quite
It felt
work.
it felt like a really ambitious, cool idea, but like you said, that's exactly right. Because I am actually very fond of the chaos that a bag builder will throw at you. Like I love Altiplano, Orleans. I like there's Automobiles is one of my favorite bag builders, and I've played Automobiles before. I don't know if you've ever played it, but where people get really annoyed. It's like a NASCAR game with bag building, and people will sometimes get annoyed because they're like I'm trying to win this race, but I'm pulling up the bad cubes, And to me, I feel like that kind of works in Automobiles because it's kind of funny. It's like you're trying to move your car and you can't move your car.
Sure.
But there's usually things you can do with the stuff that you pull up that's like really kind of a compelling and interesting. And then Altiplano, like, oh, I didn't get the things I wanted, but I'm going to go over here and do this instead, and it'll be also very useful. But for some reason, I was not getting that like bag building synergy. Like, I was not getting the utility that seemed very interesting to me out of my bag building.
Yeah, it feels like with Orleans and Altiplano, the way they avoid that feeling of being railroaded by what's in your bag is the pieces are multi-use, right? That sailor or whatever can go on 5 of the 20 different spaces, and so you can use them in different ways. And also B, you can save pieces. So if you know your bag only has one sailor and you really need to go to that spot, you can try and save it and build up the other workers you need to go there. I'm thinking of Orleans right now. And also you can like coal your bag, and like that is an interesting mechanic too.
This one sort of has those elements. There are things or places. There's like places you can put your train pieces. Like your train pieces they're like crap pieces, but you need them to build your trains. And so you are constantly, you want to get them into your bag from the supply. And then when they come out, if you put them on the board, you're essentially culling your bag, which is every time you build a route, you're culling your bag, right?
So is it like every piece has either the train track on one side or an action on the other side?
No, there's not. They're not dual sided like that. It's more like some pieces are just trains, and some pieces are like money/contract, or like one piece says, "Hey, you can deliver right now." One piece says, "Hey, you can build a station." Once so it's either going to be like a functional piece, or it's just going to be a train piece. And the train pieces are like the things you build with. So when you build your routes, you're basically taking your train pieces and putting them on the map. You just have to have a contract too. That's going to be whatever color it is that will tell you where you can build. Okay. But alternatively, if you wanted to build a train station, you put your train pieces on your player board and you sort of like fill up your player board, and then you like once you fill up a certain area, you have now essentially paid for your train station, and you can put a train station on the board, and those train pieces that built the train station go back in your bag. Yeah. So the more you build your non-train track infrastructure, the more you're clogging up your bag with these train pieces, which is a cool idea.
Yeah,
like it seems cool. Really cool. Like everything, like I was excited to play this game, and when I heard how it played, I was like, yes, this sounds great. And to me, it just fell flat. Like it just was not working.
Yeah.
So,
well, I will say Paul Denon is the king of iteration, right? He's got 5 clanks. He's got 2 versions of Dune Imperium plus a bunch of different expansions. So maybe when Thunder Train comes out, it's going to be really good. It's
when Thunder Train comes out after Lightning Train.
Yeah, exactly. And then Cyclone Train,
Hurricane Train,
and exactly, it'll be good.
I know that Candace is going to play it more, and I would be interested to see if there are like there's like a way into this game, like maybe this is just first time user error. I was not using the tools of the game properly, and then therefore I was having like a kind of a bad time. But like I wasn't the only one at the table who felt like it was like mediocre at best. And I also know that like we know, Jordan, what it's like to play a game and you don't use the tools, but it's like you're like, this is so fun, and next time I'm gonna go in and like do these things properly.
Totally.
Like you don't have to like I basically like I don't want to play this again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I told Candace, like, because she liked it. And so I'm like, you play it, report back to me. But for right now, I don't want to touch it again.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Fair.
Yeah. So that was Lightning Train. It's a hyped game. And I actually am really interested. I really genuinely want to hear from other people, because if enough people are like, no, this game is awesome, I will 100% go back to it, because like maybe there was a rule we got wrong. Maybe like there was just something that I missed. This was not a situation where it was like, oh, I didn't want to play the game, but I played it anyway to be a good sport. And then I had a bad attitude. I had a great attitude. Attitude.
You were excited. Yeah, sure.
I was. Yeah. What about you? So what have
Should
you
we
played
keep on
recently?
rolling with the train games and go to 1817? We played 1817
Yes. Yes. Tell everyone about the experience.
So it was you and me and friend of the podcast, Chris. The three of us played 1817 for the second time. The three of us had played it together a few months ago, if I'm remembering correctly. And we played with a fun little variant, which I'd never seen before, called Instability. Volatility. That's right. Volatility. It was a cool private auction where, the game has, I'm assuming everyone knows everything about 18XX, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But instead of the normal auction style where there's 6 privates that get auctioned off, there are these rows of privates, and from each row, a few will get auctioned off, and the other ones in the row will be discarded. But the players choose which ones those are. They like choose a company that's up for auction to put out, and then it'll discard someone's next to it. So that was a really cool mechanic that I liked a lot. I think it adds a lot.
Yeah, that was fun. Really enjoyed that.
And like at the way it's set up is this pyramid, and in the bottom row, there's like 6 companies, and either 2 or 3 of them will get auctioned based on the rules. But at the top of the pyramid is the auction spot for a company that's going to put a very valuable place on the board. And in base 1817, it's Pittsburgh every time. But this expansion adds 3 other locations where this very valuable city could be, that I feel like really gives freshness to the map. So in our game, the valuable city was Indianapolis, right? But it could have been in a few other places. And like I think
Buffalo.
Buffalo, right. So like that adds a lot of freshness to the map building. Not that we need it. We've played it, you've played it a bunch. I've played it twice. But just having that differentiation really felt cool. So that was really fun.
Yes, it was. It was cool to see also that the map developed, because Indianapolis was our chic city. That the west side of the map developed faster than usual. It still winds up being kind of like a race to get into New York City, and taking advantage of New York City and dealing with the New York City, Baltimore, Boston, that whole tangle over there. Like you still get that. But it was, I think the development of the map on the west side instead of the Midwest was really cool. Although we did have a lot of Midwestern development, because I had a whole thing with like cows and oil. And so I made this like very profitable highway in the center of the country that
your highway was mine based. Was it cow based or mine based? Because
I had mines. There was mines, wasn't it? But didn't I have like cattle as well? Wasn't the expansion?
I think no one bought any cattle, or maybe only one.
No, I did. No, I had it was I was going hog wild with all those little tokens to add make these tokens. Essentially, when you ride your train by it, you get like extra value on your route. So I was making this. I was taking this very blah area, and I was really souping it up with tokens and making it
okay.
Cool.
Those were I remember now. Okay, but it's cool that it adds that, because the original one you could make some river spots a little bit more valuable. You could make some mountain spots a little bit more valuable. But Volatility also adds in these new privates that can make open fields more valuable, and so that also diversifies the map building part of the game. So that was really cool. And 1817 is also a game of shorting. And we are still working on that mechanic, I think, and using it effectively. But in the first game, basically we just took out 1 or 2 shorts were taken out over the course of the entire game. I feel like
I could have sworn there was a moment in that first game when you guys shorted me very aggressily.
Maybe we didn't. No, you're right. You're right.
But it wasn't. But I would say that the tone of the game was. It was just like a moment. The tone of the game was not a constant knife fight with the shorts.
Right.
So even though there was a moment where you guys did that to me, it was not really it was not a defining moment in that session.
Right. I think in that session, if I'm remembering correctly, those shorts were like almost like loans that weren't profitable. We paid a premium, but we accessed more capital that way. But in this
Right.
game, there was like an honest attempt to short a company, but I guess it wasn't aggressive enough, we
It
think.
wasn't. It wasn't.
So
We were
you and
trying. So
Chris tried to
Chris and I.
short one of my companies, and I think you guys
Yes.
shorted it like 5 shorts deep or something, or 4 shorts deep.
No, I think it was four. I think it was four. Maybe it was
Right.
five. It was one of those things where we needed to draw just a little bit more blood. What we
Right.
did was we did enough to trip you up and make it a
Hmm.
hassle for you, and and we got capital from that we were able to invest, but we didn't do it enough to really stop your operations, and so you were able to kind of counter and then continue going forward, which then really put us in a bind. And like, I think when you're going, it's just like you just have to. It's like, I guess it's like hunting. You have to, like, you got to go all
You
the
have to
way.
go all the way.
And we
Yeah.
didn't. We hedged, and that we flinched and hedged, and that wound up being a mistake because that was a moment when you were very vulnerable, and we could have really turned it around, and we didn't.
Yeah,
At
it was
all.
really interesting. I think like because you could take out up to 10 shorts. I think if you guys had done that, that company actually bought back all of the shares
That's the thing.
that you guys shorted, which made
That's why
it
we
very
needed.
challenging.
But just barely. That's why if we had shorted just a few more, you would not have been able to buy back those last
100%. That's
ones, and that
exactly
would
right.
have taken your value down, and it would have just had a whole effect. But
But
didn't
it's really
happen.
fun to see those financial mechanisms in action because uh, what's interesting about these shorts is if the company can buy back their share and then increase their share price, then when you close your shorts, not only are you um, paying a higher price, but that money is going into the company, which the company
Yeah,
can then use to fund train purchases. And
so
so
really clever.
it's almost like yeah, it's really clever, right? But if you short it so much that the company can't buy back those stocks, that's the point where the company starts to lose share value. When you close your short positions, you can close them from the markets. The company's
Yeah,
not making money there. Like that's when things get really disastrous. So it's a really interesting mechanic there because the first few shorts weren't that bad. It was almost like a loan.
yeah.
It was almost like the company was giving you guys a loan that you'd have to pay back at a premium. But if you short it more, you can really trash a company. So I'm excited to go again, and I'm hoping someone gets really bloodthirsty and we can see that
Yes.
insolvency. You know?
I played games before where like the shorting goes all the way, and I've
Yeah.
been on the receiving end of it. I think I've participated in the bloodbath, but I have actually often been on the receiving end of the sharks. And
Mm.
there are really fun counters. I played an amazing game that we've talked about maybe a few years ago with Paul and friend of the podcast, James, where Paul and James were endlessly trying to suck the blood out of my companies. And I kept on doing these really sort of like high wire circus act things where they would short the hell out of a company, but then I would buy the company with one of my other companies, which meant that they would have to immediately like pay out, like they have to close their positions right then and there, and it was like it would plunge them into debt. And so then when they would come back into the stock round with no money because this what I had just done to them, but because they had no money, they would have to short me all over again. And it was actually this epic brawl that was like it has stayed with me all these years because it was so exciting and so fun. There was a sense of like one of us is going to flop out. It's either going to be
Right.
me or them. And then I managed to like be the one that survived. And I think this is why 1817 is so great. Like you can really have this epic experience. But I think also if you're going to be doing something like shorting someone to hurt them, I think anytime you use shorts, you have to do it with intention.
Sure.
If you're doing it just to raise a little bit of money so that way you can open up a company, that's great. Then you just do like take one, maybe two, whatever you need. But if you're doing it to hobble someone, you have to like think like, how am I going to hobble them? What way am I going to do it? Like, I'm not just going to take some and hope for the best. You have to really be like, how am I using this tool? Because if you don't use it properly, it 100% backfires.
Yeah, totally. I want to see. I think the financial mechanics in 1817 are sort of beyond the other 18xx's I've played. Like there's more you can do. There's mergers, there's
Yeah.
insolvency, there's shorting, and it's so fun. So I'm just excited to play that game a bunch more.
I
So
remember I remember going to Magic Mountain and riding the X. You ever ride X, the roller coaster?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's the roller coaster where it's like a roller coaster, but your cart actually rotates independently of the track. So
no,
you're both.
I've not done that one. Never mind.
It's like, so, instead of going up and go down, all the usual stuff, but like you're not only you're dangling like in one of those crazy roller coasters, but you're actually like being spun while you're going up and down these things. And I remember just being so crazy. And I remember at one point seeing my legs dangling, and I just would see blue sky, and I saw the sun going like left and then right and then left. And I was like, it was just madness. Then there'd be ground and there'd be sky, and you're just like, and I remember thinking like, I think all the other roller coasters have been ruined. Like nothing can be as exciting as this roller coaster. Like nothing gives me the sensation. And sometimes I feel that way with 1817. Like it does so much, and it really is a roller coaster that you sort of think like, wow, and it sort of does ruin other 18xx's in a way, because the financial stuff is so rich and deep and exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. So hopefully we get that one to the table again, but I'm still loving it. Super fun game.
Yeah.
And I think we did it in, how long did it take us? Like 9 hours?
Well, funny that you should say that. The day that we went, I dropped my partner Dom off at the airport, and then I drove to you, and we started playing. Dom flew off to South Korea. We played 1817. You won. Congratulations. You had a really strong game. Not for nothing, you guys also assaulted me in the very first round of the game. You guys, I forget even what the maneuver was, but you guys did something so that way I couldn't get. It was my fault, actually. I overextended myself in the auctions, and for whatever reason, it's not even worth getting into the weeds about it. You were able to penetrate one of my vulnerabilities by not having enough cash, and it meant that I was sort of behind the 8 ball for like the first.
It was interesting. You had almost all the private. You had most of the privates, and then Chris had a few, and I think I only had one. And so I opened up 4 companies. Anyways, it was a very interesting start.
The point was that something you guys did. Yeah, you guys did something some way that meant that I couldn't get a train, and my tempo was off, and I really struggled for a good amount of the game. But it was so fun. But either way, dropped Dom off. He flew off to South Korea, and then we played our game. And then I was driving home, and I got a text from Dom, and he's like, landed. And I was like, yep. Actually, no, it wasn't even driving home. It was like when I got to the car, I left your place, I got into my car, I text landed. I was like, okay. It took longer to play 1817 than it did to fly to South Korea.
So crazy. Yeah. It's really funny.
He got to South Korea faster than I got home.
Yeah, so wild. It's
a
long
pretty
game.
epic.
But really, who had a better time? Dom,
Honestly,
Tom was on a plane. You were having
children nearby.
Yeah,
we had a great time. Great.
It was really fun.
Speaking of Asia, speaking of trains.
Oh yes, but wow, that was honestly one of the best transitions I've heard on the pod. Asia and trains. So you played Shinjuku.
Shinjuku, I did. So Shinjuku is a game that is a hard game to find, actually. I found out about it from a video channel called Cardboard East, and the host of that channel was talking about this game. I think it's like his favorite game from Asia of maybe last year, or maybe it was his favorite game of the year. The game is designed by Gary, I'm going to say Kaczmarek.
That sounds right, yeah.
Kaczmarczyk. I don't know. It's a Polish last name, it looks like. And sometimes I don't know my way around those pronunciations. But the game came out in 2024. Mm-hmm. And essentially, we are in Tokyo, and we are building subway lines, and we are building storefronts or building stores, and we are trying to get customers to ride our rail lines and visit our stores. So we are back to the world of pick up and deliver.
Right.
We are still firmly in the world of trains. This is like the train game episode, it seems like. And also Godzilla's kind of walking around.
Really? Is that true?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's a pickup and delivery.
That's really funny. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. There's like a little Godzilla wooden mini here. That's great.
It's a pick up and deliver where you are picking up and delivering, but also dealing with Godzilla, which I feel like Do I need to say more? Do I need to add
No,
more
you
to
don't.
this?
I'm in. I want to play this. It looks great.
To be fair, Godzilla is a variant, but it's like the variant that everyone plays. Like you should play with the Godzilla.
Okay.
This is a great contrast to Lightning Train because to me this does the things that Lightning Train. It gives me the joy that I was hoping to get from Lightning Train. This is not a deck builder or a bag builder. In this game, it's a midweight game. It's a great midweight pick up and deliver game. I've played it twice now, and in it, on your turn, you can either build a store, you can build train tracks, you can move people along train tracks to stores. You can upgrade your store into a department store, or you can just like draw more cards. Those are the things that you do. Really, really simple. But it kind of has that brass thing where like if you want to build a store in the Shibuya district, you have to have the Shibuya card. But then there are ways that you can turn your cards into wild cards and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What's really cool about this game is the way you move the customers around. There is like a customer queue. Customers are always coming out onto the board. And there are 4 types of customers. One customer is looking for fashion. One customer wants food. One customer wants books. One wants electronics. And the customers they come out onto the board through a certain mechanic, and they wind up kind of piling up in different areas. And especially the thing that Godzilla does is that whenever Godzilla enters a district, the customers run away from Godzilla. So if they run into another district with other customers, then they kind of like clump up and now you have a larger clump of customers.
Oh, interesting.
So when you want to move your customers, you pick up the pile of customers in a neighborhood, and then it's like Mancala. You choose a station in that neighborhood, and then you send your customers down the subway line as far as you want to take them. You don't have to. You're not mandated to take them as far as possible. You just go as far as you want.
Oh, that's interesting.
And as you go down the subway line, you drop off customers at matching stations. So if you're really trying to get that electronics customer to your electronics store, but there's also someone has put like a fashion store on the same subway line, you're going to drop off a fashion customer on the way. So people are constantly benefiting from other people's stuff. This great. To me is like the pinnacle of what you want from pick up and deliver, which is people are trying to exploit everyone else's choices. If someone builds a train track, if someone builds a metro line, I want to build I might be motivated to build a store on there, knowing that I might be able to leech customers off, whatever actions you do as you move people up and down your train line. Or maybe I build a train line in between your stores. That way, when people use my train line, the thing is I get to draw cards. That's the kind of vibe. And it's great. It's great.
It sounds great. It sounds really fun. I'm really excited to try this one. It reminds me almost like what you've described just now, almost reminds me of Bus, where you have these customers that want to go to different stores. I mean, obviously in Bus, it's like times of day, but that whole vibe, and Bus is such a good game, and I'm really getting Bus vibes from this. So I really want to try it.
So I've never played Bus, and the story that links all this together is the one time I was going to play Bus. A bunch of us sat down to play Bus. And Trey was going to teach us Bus, and then he realized I can't teach this. He was like not current enough on it. So then the pivot was to Dune Imperium, and I was
full circle.
Like,
That's great.
I was like, I want to play Bus though, and we played Dune Imperium instead. And I did not, and I think I brought that misery of having a bus and switch on me.
Yeah.
So that's how the full circle is.
That's good. That's funny. I actually just played Dune Imperium on Friday. I played another game of it.
Really?
With my partner Gigi and friend of the podcast Drew, and it's great. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we got to keep playing it, but that game continues to astound me because the cards that come out in the market and the ways you can exploit them are really fun. I feel like everyone had like a card that sort of defined their strategy or a card or two. And that's such a fun thing to like have a huge deck of like, I don't know, 100+ cards at least. And each one of them can, or many of them at least, can feel like really impactful to your game, and they're all unique. It's such a cool thing.
Listen, I'm back on the Dune Imperium train. Like I am, I've taken it all back. I've moved on. I like the game now. I actually really like the game. And Trey likes the game now too, because Trey and I both had a pretty rough game of that Dune Imperium initially. And he's been, I think he said on the podcast, he's been playing the app a lot. But anyway, what I have heard though, a lot of the feedback about Shinjuku has been that it is sort of like a light splatter game. So I think if you're into splatter, it's a really good midweight game. And what I actually really like is it actually feels like a subway system. That's, when you're picking up these passengers and moving them around, it does kind of feel like the city's alive. Like people are going places, people need to be there. As you build your stores up to department stores, there's a 3D element on the board that comes to life. It looks like a city. Godzilla rampaging around is like very funny. So there's not only is it a really good pick up and deliver game, but there's a lot of personality happening in this game. And the score, and honestly, it's a very simple scoring. You basically at the end of the game, you score for sets of diverse customers. Like you get like 10 points for every set of 4 different customers. Okay. And then you get smaller and smaller points for incomplete sets. And that's all you're doing is just collecting sets. Like that's it.
That's cool.
And it's just a very streamlined, clean game. I guess you could say it's fiddly because you're picking up all these little bits and pieces, but it's really I really like it a lot. I think it's a really good one. It's really great. Simple rules, but like difficult decisions and choices, and it's what you want out of pick up and deliver, which is to say, I want to build this route right now because this will be an important route. But if I do that, I'm missing out on a chance to deliver this good to my store. And that's like what you want. And that's what I did not get from Lightning Train at all.
Right. That simplicity of scoring is so appealing. Like that's very Bus-like. In Bus, it's just every passenger is a point, which is, and that's the only scoring in the game. And that feels very like old fashioned, but I feel like we're kind of missing that these days. Like the Knizia scoring, like Tigris and Euphrates, whichever points you have the least of or whatever, where you're really just trying to do this one thing, but there's a lot of mechanics around it. I think that's really cool. So I'm excited to try it. It sounds really fun.
I think you will enjoy it. And again, it's not a terribly long game. I keep on thinking it's like a 90-minute game, although in both games it went a little bit longer than you would think, but it was really fun and gratifying. And yeah, I would really, I hope that the group would be open to trying it out because I think it's, I think everyone would enjoy it. Yeah.
It's available on Philibert. So if you want to ship it from Europe, you can get it. Yeah. I can't find it anywhere else, but,
I got off the BGG marketplace. There's like a Japanese version and then there's an Italian version. And I got the Italian version. The Italian version has, clearer graphic design. So that's the one I chose. You can do research online to see which version you like more. I feel like this is a perfect game for Capstone to pick up.
Yeah.
This is one that like definitely deserves a wide release. This is one that I think could actually be sold in Target.
Oh wow, okay.
I think it could have like a wide appeal. I think it's very, very accessible. But like just because something's accessible does not mean it's like unworthy or stupid or silly. Like I feel like it has some good meat on the bones, and it's entertaining, and this is a nice companion piece to something like On the Underground, which is another metro building game that's deals with one passenger, but it's fun how you build an infrastructure, and then it's fun to see how that infrastructure gets used and it informs everyone's decisions around the table.
Totally. I should say the Italian version looks like it has English on the back of the box, so I'm guessing it has English rules too.
That's the other thing. Yeah, the Italian version has English rules, so I'm not sure if the Japanese version does. There's like a file on BGG that's translated, so yeah, I would probably lean towards the Italian version. I mean, I did obviously, but yeah, it's definitely worth hunting down for sure. Yeah. What else have you been playing, Jordan? Tell me.
Speaking of Godzilla, I'm going to try and make a transition here. I played Defense of Procyon III, another game about an alien invasion.
Okay.
This is a team game, sort of like Guards of Atlantis or, another, I'm trying to think of any other team games, Cerebria, whatever. And it is a game where an alien invasion is happening on a planet that is home to humans. And each team is either the aliens or the humans. But what's cool about it is that there's a space board and a land board. And there's one player who's the space aliens, and one player is the human. Space aliens, space humans,
Human aliens.
land humans, and
Oh.
you're like the land humans are trying to like take these scientists, send them up to space, tender them to the care of the space humans, and then the space humans have to see them out of the system, and that's like a major area of scoring. And then the alien invaders, the space aliens, can land ships onto the ground to assist their land compatriot in the battle against the humans on the ground. So you have these two different arenas of fighting, and these teams are across the arena. So it's a really fun mechanic. It's a really cool idea, I think. And then the way the factions play is they're almost like root factions, and then they have totally different mechanics underlying how they work. So like one faction focuses on a pool of dice and like dice drafting from their own pool, and then one mechanic is hand management, and one faction has a bag building mechanic, and there's different mechanics, which is really cool. So I think it's a great idea, and it's by David Turtzi. So it's not a usual sort of David Turtzi design. David Turtzi of all the T games, right?
All the T games,
and like
and solo modes,
Imperium Classics, all those sorts of games. I think. So in any event, it's an unusual design for him. I like it, but I don't love it.
Really?
I think it's the concept is so cool. I love the idea
that concept
behind
sounds
the
really
game.
cool.
The mechanics of each faction don't quite sing to me. They feel both a little bit simplistic and also a little bit hard to manipulate. For instance, I played the space humans in our game, and I was playing with Candace, and a few others. And it was kind of like I had a hand of, I think, 3 cards, and I would play one most of the time, if I'm remembering this correctly. And I was like, okay, this feels a little bit light on what I'm able to do. Maybe I had more cards than that, but in any event, it felt very limiting. So the mechanics don't quite work for me. But the idea is just so cool that I want to give it another few tries. It does some really smart things with the interaction between the two arenas, like the space aliens can like set up these I don't know, like plinths or whatever that sends signals into space, and that can benefit the land aliens can benefit the space aliens in that way. So there's a bunch of cool little stuff like that that I really love, and I'm kind of hoping that I see another team game where the teams are across these two different boards, because I think that's so cool.
I think it's a really cool concept. Yeah,
right. If the factions were as cool as the root factions, this would be like an all-time game for me, because I think it would be super fun. But in the end, it didn't quite meet that level. But the communication with your teammate is really interesting. Like, hey, can you use this? Can you not use this? Both teams have like shared resource pools that you have to negotiate. But most of the time, I felt I was playing against the opponent in the same arena as me, rather than with my teammate, if that makes sense. It was sort of like I was really paying attention in space, and I didn't really know what was going on the ground very much,
Right. So it's more, that's an interesting observation. So it felt a bit like maybe you were allies than teammates. Like you were just sort of doing your thing over here, and like you were maybe keeping tabs, like getting updates, like, oh, everything's fine down here on Earth, but it wasn't like you guys were coordinating together very much.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It was, at one point, Candace asked me for like to have a little strategy discussion. Candace was my teammate. She was the ground humans, and she was like, what do you think about what the ground aliens are going to do in this moment? And I was like, Candace, I have no idea how the ground aliens work. I don't know anything about them at all, because I never interact with them, and they're not my teammates. So like, I really can't assist with this. Maybe a few more plays would make that a little bit more intriguing to, because I'd have more of an understanding of that faction. And I think we will play it again, hopefully with the same group, so that we can like rotate factions and know a little bit more about how everything works. But in the moment, I was like, it was Tim who was the ground aliens, and I was like, I have no idea what Tim is doing. I can't tell you a thing about him.
That's exactly how I felt when we played La Familia. Like, I felt like Candace and I were teammates there, but I didn't feel like we were working together. I felt like we were just both hoping to beat you guys. It was you and who are you playing with? Who was your partner on that one?
Oh man.
I don't think it was Tim.
I don't think it was Tim either, but I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Partner. Yeah, your nameless partner. But I remember feeling like I was doing stuff and I really did not like La Familia at all. But I wonder if I was in a mood. Sometimes I'm always like, was I in a mood? But I really did not like it. But I think part of it was I didn't, it's not like Guards of Atlantis where you do feel like you are deciding like you go here, you go there. Like it felt like I was just sort of doing stuff, and there was some discussion about like maybe we should take care of that area, but it was not, the team element of it was not very present. And I wonder if it was same for you with Defense of Procyon.
Yeah, it feels like in Guards of Atlantis, because you're both playing on the same board and you're like right up in each other's faces, it's like, okay, I can punch Ben, and then my teammate, Candace can punch Ben, and together our punches are likely to hurt Ben or kill Ben or whatever and send it back to the starting point.
Don't know how I feel about other games using this example.
right. but and so like that really feels like teamwork. It feels like, okay, I'm weakening him and then you're doing the finishing blow or whatever. And it feels like we have to coordinate those strikes to make it work. Whereas in Defense of Procyon, it felt more like, okay, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, and we win or lose together. So we're sort of on the same team, but we're not really like working on the same objective. So the teamwork felt a little more distant. But I still think it's a cool game and it's a really unique design. So even if you're not interested in playing it, I think taking a look at the components and like seeing how it works is cool if you're interested in this sort of area of design.
It would be cool if like with those two boards, like I love the idea of like a space board where there's space humans, space aliens, and land humans, land aliens. It would be cool if like there was something that forced you guys to switch. It's like, either an event or like, hey, should we swap? Like there's some sort of functionality where like you have to go down to land and she has to go back up to space. So that way you really have to know what's going on in each other's boards because you're going to be forced to like dive into them. I can also see that being a total pain in the ass, but if there was a way to do that was like really intuitive and interesting and fun, that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. And you have to like, curate your board so that it could both work in space and it can work on land when you need to go down there or whatever.
Yeah, it's almost like the weird metaphorical thing would be like a diver. Like if you have like a dive team, a game about like a dive team, for instance, where you're like trying to find something and the diver has only so much oxygen, so they have to come back up, and when they're up, then you go down. So like this idea of like having to keep tag teaming is kind of a cool idea, but I don't know. Like you have to make sure that's better in execution than in concept.
Right.
It could really flop.
It's a cool concept though.
Big flop. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll keep tabs on Defense of Procyon. Sounds interesting, but maybe not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite
and I
where
will
it
say,
needs
I
to
think
be.
Candace was, I liked it, but didn't love it. I think Candace was a little bit higher on it. And I do
but
think
we're really shitting on Candace's games today, huh?
No, not at all. Not at all. But I do think it will be discussed on an upcoming episode of the BGG podcast. So you can go there for more thoughts on it.
Yeah, go listen to Candace's podcast. She's doing a great job over there on the BGG podcast, which you can find literally just by going to BGG. It's right up there. Yeah. I think it's time to talk about our latest TI4 game. I'm going to just tell the listeners right now, if you don't want to hear a TI4 session, I encourage you to use the timestamps on our podcast and just skip to the next section. But we're going to talk about it. Just a fair warning that we're about to get real nerdy and real specific about TI4. So if you're not a Twilight Imperium fan, and if this all just sounds like nerdy gobbledygook for you, first of all, we get it. Second of all, the next game we talk about, Hot Streak, is at the 1 hour 31 mark. So just go there. But if you feel like geeking out over some TI4 talk, here it comes. Now it's time to, this happens every few months. We have to sit down and give a post-game report on TI4, and it is time now. We had a session yesterday. It was a big, long game. And I'm happy to report that I feel like friendships are all intact afterwards, right?
Yeah,
I feel good about this.
Yeah, it was nice to come out of TI4 feeling friendly with everyone. That was good.
There were no significant meltdowns. I think there were some standard, minor ones. I have to say,
TI4 without a little bit of hurt feelings. You have to have a little bit of it.
There was some saltiness that went around. First of all, it was very dramatic for me because you provided delicious bagels, and in a freak accident, some scallion and the scallion cream cheese got wedged in between my teeth, probably from the force of the bagel, and it took out my crown, which I felt like was a really bad omen for the game for me. I was like, damn it.
So brutal, but it was hilarious because later in the game, I think Matt drew a relic called the Crown of Amphidia, and you handed over your crown, like your tooth crown, and you were like,
my tooth crown.
Here's the Crown of Amphidia. That was hilarious. That was a great
Nothing
moment.
like a good dental prop joke to lighten the mood.
Exactly.
So it was you, me, Matt Robinson, Paul, friend of the podcast, Matt Corluca. A 5-player game. I personally find that 5 is the most intense player count. I don't know what it is. I just feel like those 5-player games just feel a bit more claustrophobic, and I don't know. I always feel like they hit different for me. I don't know why.
Yeah. They're interesting games. I don't know if I played a ton of 5, but I liked it. And I want to play some lower player counts too, like some 4 and some 3. And,
absolutely.
It was fun.
You were the Titans of Ul,
which meant
you could like hatch little baby PDSs that could also be mechs on planets, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was whenever I like activated a planet, I got to put down a little sleeper token, and then if I activated that system again, I could awaken it into a PDS or a mech and an infantry. And then if I activated it again, I could convert that PDS into my flagship.
Oof. And I just want to say again, for the listeners who are not TI4 fans, we're going to get granular here. Like this is like, I'm not going to say broad strokes. I'm going to get into details, but it won't be too long, but I'm going to get into it. You were the Mahawked Gene Sorcerers. I chose them because I never played them before. You did some sort of app that like divvied out 3 factions per person. And so of the 3 that were given to me, you played them before. So I thought, let me give them a try. And I saw that they were a high complexity faction, and they're also an aggressive faction. Their whole thing is that like when they fight with people, they collect, if they basically destroy a piece of plastic, then they get a command token from that person's reserve, and it goes into their fleet pool. So their fleet size grows bigger, but then that eventually unlocks their commander, and their commander has this crazy power that you can basically negate a command token that you've used in an active system. And essentially you kind of have like massive warfare abilities to constantly remove your tokens at the cost of other tokens, and tempo. It takes a while. So essentially for me, my strategy was I read some tips online. I'm not gonna lie, I read to see what people
I did
do.
too. I listened to the Space Cats Peace Turtles episode about my faction.
Like, I love playing TI4 where I have no idea and I figure out my strategy as I go along. I love doing that, and that's almost always how I play. But I was like, I'm playing with like Paul and Jordan and Matt. I was like, I've got to do my research. So
I think it's fun to like learn what your faction does and then try and like adapt what its strengths to the game you're playing in. If you don't even know your faction's strengths and you're like playing a learning game of TI4 is too big of an investment. Like I'm never going to play the same faction twice, I feel like. Or
if we played it like every week, then it's like, sure, I'm gonna pull some levers and then I'll play the faction again. But like, the game that comes to the table so rarely that you're like, let me just
I want to see this faction do what it can do. Yeah.
And there is also fun in like reading what people have done and being like, let me see how it works for me and like how that executes. So the general consensus was, even though like the Mahawked powers are like, hey, go out and like, attack people and get plastic, you don't want to be an enemy of the table. You want to be like really nice, and you want to sort of like quietly build up your power, and then you want to unleash. And so that's how I played. I leaned into poor me, like I was just like in my little corner, and I was a bit hemmed in. Like there was some of it was not totally role play. Like I had a little bit of a rough start, but we had an interesting arc to the game. Matt Corluca started off by placing a sun directly in front of Paul's home system, not directly, but in his wedge, and so that meant that Paul was going to have to come and mess with you a bit more, right?
Mm-hmm. So Paul was the Argent Flight, which I didn't know this going into the game, um, or even for like the first few turns of the game. But the Argent Flight is uniquely well suited to take on the Titans of Wool,
Hmm.
um, which is sort of an interesting thing. So because one of my powers is extra sustained damage, and one of his powers is getting rid of sustained damage. So in any
Mm.
event, he countered me very well. He came into me, which I think he had to do. I think it was the right call. And at the point that he did that, I was a little bit ahead on points as well.
You had a really
But
strong start. You blasted out to like 5 points right away, or 4 or 5
yeah, I
points
got
right
five
away.
points early, and then I was like, okay, I need to slow down because if I get
Hmm.
another point or two, everyone's going to be coming for me. And so I
Yeah,
didn't score points for like a round or two
you were
rounds, maybe,
really good
while
about
you
that.
guys caught up. Right.
I
And
think you
I
did
was
a
like
great
getting
job
ready to
of.
score, but I didn't want to
Mhm.
blast out too far ahead because I knew it would become everyone hits me the
I
game.
think you did a great job, Jordan, of taking care of your table image in this game. I think you were really good because you did explode out as a threat, but you were good to kind of put on the brakes a bit, and you kind of shrunk. And I think that was I think very beneficial too. I think you played the metagame really well yesterday.
I was happy with that. Yeah, I left Mechatol undefended and no one took it for a round, which was actually great. But and eventually someone did. But
Matt
like
Matt came in. Matt was
Matt came
doing.
in.
I forget the name of his the alliance.
The
It's like
Nas Cole Alliance.
it's
Nas
so
Cole,
funny when
that's not right.
it's just funny just talking TI4 sometimes. It's so nerdy. But his whole thing was exploring. But I think also one thing that was helpful to you was that Matt suddenly out of nowhere kind of like caught up to you. So then you did not seem like public enemy number one. So then Matt kind of like perched himself on Mechatol Rex. And I had this power that was this crazy hero power that said choose any like space fleet and have them move into an adjacent space fleet of an opponent, and they have to fight to the death with no retreats. And my goal was you were sitting there all you were sitting next to Matt with a big fleet, and he had a decent sized fleet on Mechatol Rex at one point, and I was like, once I can unlock my commander power, which means basically like mass warfare abilities, I'm going to collide Matt off of Mechatol Rex. That way you guys fight and deplete your forces. I will take over Mechatol Rex. I will then go and get some, with my new powers, get some big objectives. I was like ready to basically emerge from being the small one who is all the way in the back with only 5 points when you guys had 7 or 8 points. And I was going to do this big explosive move. But then there was a third act twist. Things got really crazy going into, I'd say, the third act of the game.
Yeah, we should say. So this is probably like the end of round five, and Matt is sitting at 8 points. And based on the positioning around the board, I think I'm also on eight, and Paul's maybe on seven at this point. But in any event, Matt says to the table for the game, and he
Which I think is, you should never
invades
say
Paul's
that.
home,
Never,
right? And he
never
invades
say that.
Paul's home system from his home system. Like he moves all the
He
way
does
from Paul's home,
crazy thing.
his
And
home
it
straight
was
into
like a,
Paul's home.
it was like a clutching the pearls moment, because for me, I personally was like, you guys were at 8, and like you can just tell, like I now have to make my move, and I'm like, I'm poised to do my big thing, and then Matt does this thing where he goes into Paul's home system, catches us all by surprise.
And we should say, at this point, Paul and I have exchanged supports for the throne, so Paul can't attack me. Matt comes into Paul's home and scores his ninth point. So Matt's now 1 point away from victory, and we know that on this status phase, he'll be able to score 1 point and win the game. And so you have to make a move a little bit earlier than you wanted to. I think you wanted to wait one more round, maybe to round
I didn't.
six.
No, I wasn't. I did not want to wait one more. I was going to be my whole big Mechatol Rex plan. I was going to do that round. I was doing little actions I was hoping to sort of let you guys sort of use up all your tokens.
Right.
So that way I could kind of like do everything without it being interrupted. And I was just going to do what I was going to do.
Right. But now, unfortunately, you have to take Matt's home system or in some other way stop him from scoring.
If the round ends, Matt wins. And I'm like, I have to stop this because I don't know how I could necessarily win. But I say that meaning like, I don't know what the direct path is, but I know I have a lot of tools left in my arsenal and I could definitely make a shot at it. At this point, even though I'm at 5 points, like I'm only halfway up the chart. I know like I have built up for hours.
Right. You're at the height of your potential, and the rest of us kind of spent a lot of potential. Like we're on the decline.
I'm playing, when I say I'm playing the long game, like I am quietly doing something for hours and hours for this moment, as is Matt, by the way, because Matt does this crazy plan. So the only way to stop Matt is either to invade his home and take away one of his home plans so he can't score a public objective, or in a kind of an edge casey thing, he's controlling a legendary planet and he has a point that's attached to that planet. And the moment that he loses a legendary planet is the moment that point goes to someone else. So I have to go and take that planet from Matt, and I have to use all my warfare abilities and like a lot of my ships to sort of like plow through all these people, including you, because you accidentally... Did you have an ulterior motive for that ship that you put in the way, or was it just purely you were just going for that token that was there?
No, I had an ulterior motive. One of my private objectives was be neighbors with everyone, and that was the easiest way for me to be neighbors with Corluca.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I had to like burn through all these tokens to get through. I had to do this whole thing, and I do it, and I take over the planet. And let me tell you something, Matt was not happy. Matt was not happy at all. He was
not happy. My favorite quote from Matt was, you were like getting ready to do this plan, and the whole table is kind of talking about it because we're all interested in your success, right? None of us wants Matt to win. We want a chance for ourselves to win, so we're all talking about it. And Matt just looks at you and says, "Well, Ben, or you could just let me win." Right? And he was like,
I don't remember him saying that. He said that.
He was like, well, we could play for 2 more hours and who knows what will happen, or you could just let me win. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of like, I get that feeling, because he felt like he'd already achieved it, he'd already earned it, but you had so much potential left, so I think you're going to pursue it.
I at this point I played this game many more times than Matt, and I'm not pulling the card like I know it more, but like one thing that happens in this game is like there's a tempo, and like you have to take your shot, because if you wait too long you lose your shot. But also when you take your shot, sometimes it's like it still is somehow too early. Like it's hard, and I think he did such a masterful move by getting that point, like lining this all up, that it felt like he had won. I feel like on a certain level, he must have. It's like it's hard when you feel like you've done this amazing thing and someone is now going to take it from you, and you're like, but I did something so amazing. It's like I did all this work. I was in a hard thing. I was doing all these card draws. I was doing all this work, and it's like I'm sure he probably felt like he had earned the win, because he honestly had. It was a great move that he had done.
It was a great move. No one really saw it coming, so it was cool.
But it just so happened that I was like, yeah, but I got to do my shit. I got to do my shit. I waited all game for this moment, and so it's like, yeah, I could end it. Like I could just not do this. Like I wasn't guaranteed that I was going to win by doing this. Yes,
you were in a very strong position though. You had a genuine shot.
But I'm not going to roll over. I'm not going to roll over, because it wasn't a king making thing. It was like, I see a way for me to go forward. So
right. And I will say Space Cats. So I listen to this podcast and they talk about all these factions individually. But one of the things they're always talking about is Winslay. They're like, at the end of the game, there's going to be this Winslay where you put yourself in a position to win, and then someone has to come and slay you and put themselves into a position to win. And it's basically like a carousel, and whoever
absolutely
can win and not be slayed is the one who wins. And so like that really clicked something for me. That was the first time I'd heard that. But it's sort of like it's a king of the hill. You win by putting yourself in the position to win and being able to defend it. You
Yeah,
usually
it's
don't win just by like achieving a thing and then playing a card and the game's over or whatever.
and there's so much going on. You can lose. Like, I actually think it was a mistake for Matt to say for the game because it put a target on him. Because if he had just done it, he would have gone up to 9 points, and I think we would have been on high alert. But I don't know if I would have specifically been like, oh, he hasn't done that objective. Maybe one of you guys would have. But at that point, there's so much going on and you're so in your head and you get frantic. People overlook things all the time. And Matt made a very good point that's like, no, it's the noble thing to do. It's like saying check in chess or whatever. You say check and then checkmate. Yeah, I get that. But I think in TI4, when you put in that many hours, you just like, it's like part of the game is like you just do your attack and then hope no one notices and be like, boom, I won. Like I just think that's the game.
I agree with you, and we'll come back to this, but I also do think that we would have noticed because I think we were talking about how he was going to be at 9 in the next round. So I think if he'd scored 9 in the round, we would have known he would have gotten to 10. But
we would have noticed. So it was the noble thing to do, but I still think we may not. Here's the thing: we may have noticed maybe like 2 turns later. Or a turn later, and at that point, like, ran out of the tokens to stop it. Yeah. But it was like at that moment, it was like, stop everything. Okay, what's our path forward, right?
Right.
So, yeah. But it meant for me, there were upside downsides because what it meant was I couldn't do my little evil plan of using my hero ability. I had to actually use the hero ability to do this elsewhere to free up this thing. Anyway, so I took over the planet. Matt lost his point. I gain a point. I'm suddenly up to 6 points. And I take over Mechatol Rex. And I have 1 token left. And I'm like, whatever. I don't do anything. Silly me. I'm not sure, but I might have been able to short my home system, which I had left completely abandoned in all this madness because it was madness. And this was a long round. There's so much talk. It's like so
I'm
sitting there
too because at the end of the round everyone else had passed, so it was just you moving your pieces around, and you probably felt a lot of pressure because you were like, oh, like I'm going to be taking my turn for the next 15 minutes or so because you had so many tokens and everyone else was out,
and I had to pivot things around and change plans. And so I take over Mechatol Rex, which honestly, if I had even realized, I didn't even need to do that. I could have just moved everything back home because, well, I would not have known this. I would not have known this at the time. So then I have also taken the speaker token, which means I'm going to have first dibs on things. So I take Mechatol. The next, not Mechatol, I'm sorry, Imperial, which would let me score in round. The next objective that comes up is spend 16 influence. And I have at this point a ton of influence. Even if I didn't have Mechatol, I'd have a ton of influence. All I have to do by scoring that objective, I now went from 6 points to 8 points. I'm now tied with the pack. And now all I have to do is score this, get to my turn, do Imperial, score that public objective, game over. I have a massive come from behind, win where I was at 5 points towards the end of the last round. And now suddenly I can win at the start of the top of the round. It was like going to be a big turnaround. But unfortunately, my home system was not only undefended, you are literally adjacent to it with all your evil people.
Yeah, that's right. So this is like, I guess the next piece of the story is I took warfare, and I know like Corluca was in front of me. I think he had politics or something. Anyway, I was like, okay, someone needs to take Ben's home system. We can't just
now.
Let him
I'm
score.
public enemy number 1. Yeah,
right. You're public enemy number 1, right? Because you're going to score on your first turn of the next round. And I thought Corluca was going to do it. And luckily for me, he didn't, but I thought he was going to, and he ended up just activating politics, I think. And so it was to me to try and take your home, and I had the ship power to do it, but in the end it was like 2 infantry against your 1 infantry. So it was like not great odds. And it was a small battle, but a really impactful one. I think we were both playing a few cards in it to try and hold it out. And I ended up taking your home system, and and then immediately after I take your home system, I realize, oh, wait a minute. I could have just taken, I was at 9 points at this point. I was like, oh, I could have just taken your legendary planet and scored that point that moves around when a legendary planet is taken.
And by the way, just want to say, now that my home system is taken, I cannot score a public objective on my turn.
Right. So you're not able to score public objective on your turn. But I'm like, oh, if I had just taken that legendary planet, I would have won immediately because I would have gotten my 10th point. And I say it out loud, but
Yep.
I'm like, oh, but you know what? I'll just do it next turn, thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's fine. And so the next turn starts, you're unable to score Imperium, and then Paul starts to go, and he moves towards your and he like manages to move right into your legendary planet to take that point from you, right?
Yeah. So just to
And so I'm
reiterate,
like, oh,
Paul is at 9 points now,
Paul's
right?
at 9 as well, right?
And he realizes, like, oh, based on what Jordan just said, I can go. I'll just do what Jordan just said. And so he goes after one of the legendary planets I have, knowing that I would drop down to 7. He would go up to 10. So he goes.
Right. So he now knows this plan, which I don't think he realized it before I said it. So I was like, this is the whole keep your mouth shut thing that you were saying about Matt too. I should have kept my mouth shut. And I think even in the moment, I'm like, I like look down at my tech board. This is Paul's in the middle of his fight with you. And I look down at my tech board and I see I have fleet logistics. I could have gone again on my previous turn and just taken it. And I'm like, Paul, wait a minute. I could have done this on my previous turn. And like I said, I wanted to, and oh man, I could have rolled to win. And you and Paul were like, it's too late. And
it was too late.
It was too late.
I know.
I'm not disagreeing. You guys were like, it's too late. And I was like, you know what?
Bummer.
I said, I think I would have let me roll, but I shut up. But I was like, oh, this is the worst feeling in TI when you like read something 5 minutes after and you're like, God damn, like I could have really.
And I just want to say here, I cannot tell you how many times I have had fleet logistics and forgotten to use it. And I'm like, oh my God, I could have done, like, it happens to me all the time on TI4, all the time. Yeah. But this was especially painful for you because if you had remembered that you could do a 1-2 action, you could have then gone forward and taken one of these legendary planets and won that point. But as it were,
right, I just
Paul
forgot it.
Went and did it. And Paul and I had a fight and he destroyed me. And so I go and I reach for the little card that's going to give Paul the point that he's going to win. And I look at the card and I read it and it says, you lose this part, you give this card to someone if they take one of your legendary planets or a planet in your home system. And I was like, Jordan, guess what? You actually earned this.
I got so lucky with that. And I don't think any of us knew that before you reread that card because Matt had drawn it probably like 5 hours earlier and no one had reread it in the interim.
And it's just, again, like little, like you have to kind of stay really engaged during, because like we all made mistakes because Paul could have done this before you. He could have gone after that legendary. You forgot to do active your thing. I forgot to shore up my home. If all I had to do was shore up my home planet, I think if I had just done that, like all I had to do, I got focused on, I was like, oh, I'll go to Mascots Rex and I'll score this. And, oh, you know why I took Mascots Rex? Because I got point for Mascots Rex and then score the public objective of spending three tokens. So that would have been 2 points right there. But like, you lose sight of stuff. It's because you spend hours and hours. And some people see that as a flaw. Like, you spend hours and hours, you forget one thing and you lose the game. But it's like, no, that's why the game is good. You have to be in it the whole time.
It's something that I've heard often enough is like, misplays are more interesting than good plays, and TI4 forces you to make misplays. But I will also say on the other hand of it, like making a misplay when you could have won TI feels worse than in any other game because you've dedicated like 10 hours to this game and then at the end of it you're like, oh my God, if I just read that card one more time, or if I just thought to shore up my home system or whatever.
But to be fair,
rough, but it is fun.
To be fair, there was no guarantee even if you had done the second action, you won. There's enough craziness in this game that I could have held on with my little infantryman. You never know.
Right. And in the end, that's only, in the end, it didn't matter because the home system was enough to take that card, right?
I felt bad for Matt because he really did line up a great play, and he had a tough game because he was doing the game where you explore. He was just card draw after card draw, and he had a bunch, especially sort of like in the first third, that felt very meh or lame, and he was having hard times with the combats. Like he was not hitting at all, and the fact that he then came and was like basically on the precipice of victory was probably a very exciting and thrilling thing. And then to have like have that taken away, and also to be basically like the whole table is turned against you, and to sit there and listen while people are scheming of ways to rob you of your joy of something you worked hard for is not a pleasant feeling. It is the TI4 experience, though. Like that is the game. Like that. I think you have to know that when you reach the Act 3 of TI4, whether you like it or not, it does become the carousel of Winsley. It's like whack-a-mole. It's hot potato. Like the skill is that like you spend the whole game setting yourself up for this big moment where you can either seize victory or be the last one standing that can have it. Like that's just the way the last third of the game, the last act of the game is.
Yeah, and I should say if Matt scored his 9th point in the status phase of that round, and we still didn't see this move for him to go in and hit Paul. And he could have like waited until he already had 9 and then played that as his 10th point as a surprise on his first action. He might have been able to pull it out that way.
There's little tempo things like that too. It's almost like the reveal, the secret reveal is the one that you want to that to be the winning one, like in Catan, right?
Right. It's this very, very hard balance of like, I'm able to score a point right now, and points are so hard to come by, and I know I can do it right now, but if I do it, everyone's going to see it, and that's dangerous.
And also easier said than done, because it's like Paul's home planet was just empty. And how many times have you played this game where just when you're about to like seize something, they build up a million things and you're like, oh, my window closed. So like it's always, this is what makes you want to go play again, because it's these tiny margins of timing that mess everything up. I mean, for me, I was really in a state of smilingly like, oh my God, I was so close. Like, because I had a really tough start in the beginning, and because I was so patient and had gone so long, and I was like, I think I'm almost playing this faction just right. And I was like, if I win this game after being in this tiny section, like you saw, I don't think I'm exaggerating. I had like a little, like 4 or 5 tiles.
Yeah.
If I can explode out and do this, I was like, oh, this will be legendary. But
it would have been
instead,
cool.
It's just,
you did really play the social game very well too. Like you gave Paul an extra trade good earlier that maybe you didn't need to. I heard him like an hour after that happened, and he was like, "But Ben, I really respect that you gave me that trade good." And
I don't think I actually capitalized on his goodwill, but I knew that if I needed to, it was there. Because he said, Ben, I didn't forget that, and I was actually trying to be very generous with you as well.
You were,
because we have a history of fighting on this game.
Crazy, like that was so important to me. So I really
appreciated it. You were in a vulnerable place. Like there's, like if I probably could have not done it in a way that would have been non-aggressive, but I was really trying, because I knew I had big asks of you. I needed to get like a skirmish out of you and some plastic, and like the attachment you gave my card resulted in 2 points for me.
Yeah.
So I needed to be like, I had to be nice.
Yeah.
I had to be nice. All I wanted to do was attack you, Jordan. I have to say, all I wanted to do was attack you.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. You played it off so well. That was great.
No, because I wanted to attack you just because like it's like you were near me and you were doing well, and like no one was policing you when you were on like Mechatol Rex, Paul, I felt like was sort of trying to egg me to do it, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, I can't do, like this is not the game I'm playing. Like I have to be just really just kind and small, and just my moment will come to explode out. My moment will come.
It ended up being really, really beneficial to me that one trade that we did, because right after we did that trade, I was very weak. I had no command tokens, and you agreed to do leadership at the top of the round before Paul could take my home system in exchange for this really powerful card. It doesn't really matter. But immediately after that, Paul was like, okay, we'll swap supports. He was like, he couldn't fight me as well anymore. And that that made a huge difference to me. Like having 2 neighbors who don't really want to police you feels good. So
what was hard for me is what was hard for me is that no one at any time offered their support for the throne to me ever.
Yeah.
You didn't, I don't think, right? I don't think you did. I think I offered to you, but
You
So
did.
I felt like I also felt like I was like a little bit on my own island where no one wanted to work with me. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I just had to, that's why it was also important for me to also have a good relationship with you, because you were the only person at the table that I remember, making distinct like overtures to want to work with me. At one point, Matt and I had a deal that fell through, but other than that, like I really did feel like I was just like, I'm gonna have to I'm being small. I'm gonna forge my own way. And I was like, in some ways, this is good. I'm just gonna be like hopefully I'm an afterthought. So I mean, this is one of the great parts about Twilight Imperium is that there's just so much you have to deal with. And there are feel bad moments, and it's like a bummer when things go awry. But I feel like it's when you sit back and you look at the whole experience and the stuff that you're doing above the table and the actual plays and the timing and everything. It's such a like a fun special game.
It was great. It's a very fun game. It is special. It's very unique, and I just want to play it again, which is nice. I feel like when I play TI, and I'm sure Matt's feeling this way today. Sometimes I don't want to play it for another month. I'm like, okay, I need a little. I'm not ready to jump back in, but sometimes I'm ready to go, like just go again immediately. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm sure this will happen to Matt too. Everyone finds their way back to wanting to play it some more because it's such a
Yeah.
fun and unique design, and I don't know, it's just really something special. So
Everyone does find their way back. And he was, he seemed a little glum at points. But then as we were packing up and we were all talking about when you did that, and when you did that, or oh my God, I almost had this, and oh my God, I want that. You start talking about all the things that could have, would have, should have, da 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 da. And you could see already like the joy was coming back to him of like, yeah, that was actually pretty fun. I mean, I'll let
yeah.
him be the one to articulate what his emotional experience was in the game, but it seemed like he was better. And I think we should close out the podcast by talking about what we did as our little dessert after Twilight Imperium, what we played.
Yes, so we played a game. This is my second time playing it. It's a great little game called Hot Streak that is kind of similar to, oh man, what's the name of the game? The horse betting game?
Ready Set Bet. It's like Ready Set Bet and Camel Up kind of
Camel
mixed
Up.
together.
Right. So this is a fun little game. You have this deck of cards. You have this beautiful components, these like racetrack, and there's four mascots that are going to be racing. And these mascots are these really cool painted minis. So you've got the bear mascot, the queen, the fish, and the hot dog mascot. And there's this sort of like shared deck of cards that you put out in front of everyone. So everyone can see what's in it. And there's a variety of effects. The fish moves forward 3, everyone moves forward 1. The queen turns around, the bear falls down, those sorts of effects. Whatever, the hot dog swerves to the right, meaning they'll go out of their lane. And so we all sort of see that. And then everyone also gets a hand of 3 private cards. And then we start placing our bets. We do a snake draft on which mascot we think is going to win. There's 3 bets for each mascot, and there's also a fun little side bet that changes from race to race. Like, will 2 mascots be on the same space at any point? And you can bet yes or no. So everyone drafts their bets, and then the little spice of the game is everyone takes one of the 3 cards in their hand and secretly adds it to the deck, a little bit of hidden information about what's going to happen, and then we just run the race. You take the deck, you burn 3 cards, you say 3, 2, 1. Hot streak, and then you start flipping the cards out of the deck and moving the mascots as they move. And if a mascot runs over another mascot, they'll fall down. If a mascot runs over an already fallen mascot, they'll die. If a mascot swerves off the map, they'll be eliminated.
High stakes game for the mascots. Like death is on the line.
Right. That's right. They die. And then, thematically, because there's 3 races, someone else puts on the suit, the person inside died. But, the bear might turn around and start running the wrong way. So we're running this race until all the mascots finish and get their positions. And then you score the bets out, and you do it 3 times. So it's very simple. It's like a 30-minute game, maybe 45 at the outside. But it's so fun to have this hidden information about these mascots and like putting in these cards. And the cards, what's I think like what makes the game work for me at least is the cards can be really powerful. Like there's a concept called recover that is your mascot stands up and starts facing the correct direction. And so, that solves all your problems. Like if your mascot's on the ground or they're facing the wrong way, you just draw the recover. So if you have the recover for your mascot in your hand, that mascot's in a lot of trouble and you can bet against them. There's like fun stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Or, if you have the star is like a bunch of movement for a mascot, you can put it in and bet on the queen. So anyways, you run the race, you pay out the bets, but then that deck that was there for the race, you shuffle it up and everyone gets one card out of it. And then everyone in the next race will put one card back in. So the deck is kind of moving through the players' hands, being filtered by the players. And it can create a lot of fun little decisions, but really it's just a silly game. So anyways, Ben,
Yeah,
what
I
did
mean,
you think of it?
basically, it's just like we know a little bit of information about ways that these mascots can move, but we don't know if that information will come into play and when it will come into play. And so you just are like, I know a little something, but it's like when we talk about imperfect information, it's really imperfect, but it's enough that you get a hunch. And the game is, oh my God, it was so fun. I want to buy it. Apparently it's sold out at the moment. And so I'll just wait for it to come back in stock. But I can see this playing really well with like, lots of people I know. We put on some college marching band music to sort of like set the tone. I really like games where we're betting on inanimate objects. I love Camel Up. I think Camel Up is actually such a fun game. I've never played it where people are not cheering, and Camel Up has that like chaotic thing of camels hopping on top of each other and they're constantly changing positions. So you don't know what happens. And Ready Set Bet is like huge fun, as those horses go down, like everyone's cheering, making so much noise. And this one really kind of harnesses a lot of that energy of like a system that is moving these objects, these NPCs. And we're just trying to guess how it's all going to work out. And it was just really, really fun. And I would like to note also that one thing that really works well with this game is that like it's very aligned thematically with what it's doing. Like these objects are running up and down this field the way you would imagine they would run at halftime at a football game. Like we've all seen those videos of like the hot dogs running down the field, they bounce into each other and fall over, and these figurines work like that. They swerve, they go get turned around, they fall over, and they move forward. It makes sense. And sometimes when a game is completely aligned with its theme, when the mechanics match it, and the presentation and everything, even a simple game can kind of just like shine in a way like that feels like as fulfilling as 12 hours of Twilight Imperium.
Sure. Yeah. The theming is great. And I like too that everyone has, there's only 4 mascots to bet on. So odds are like you'll have someone else who's cheering with you for the fish or whatever. And then the
Mm-hmm.
fish gets to move 3 and both you and the other player are like, yeah, go fish. That's just like a really fun moment.
The
The
the card
cheering
that
part of the game has to work because that's so much of
yeah.
it. And in Ready Set Bet, it does as well. So I don't know. I think that sort of
Yeah.
crowd feeling is great.
I hope that this translates because I have played Ready Set Bet once or twice with people who are very passive about, not passive, but they're just like, oh, okay, cool. They're like not cheering for whatever reason, and then the game feels like it feels awkward and strange,
A little
and
flat.
like not
Yeah,
fun.
sure.
It falls flat, and you're like, why aren't you people having fun with this? Why aren't you guys cheering for your choices? And they're like, okay, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just wrap this up now. But I think this one would get the cheers out. I mean, I feel like Camel Up have always had cheers. I think Camel Up always works. But maybe with Ready Set Bet, sometimes like the enthusiasm of like rolling the dice and like getting those horses moving, like you're like, oh, nine's going. And then everyone else is like, I'm not like, whoa, Ben's going crazy rolling those horses, right? But I think these games are maybe there's not as much of a disparity between one person going nuts moving horses and everyone else betting. And this game's also hilarious, as is Camel Up. I think maybe that's what it is. Like Camel Up and this game are a little funnier than Ready Set Bet because in this game there's that card where like the mascot could turn around and start heading the wrong direction, and that's like hilarious. Like, oh my god, the bear was doing so well and just turned around and started heading the wrong way. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, at one moment the bear was like literally on the finish line and then just turned around and ran all the way back down the field.
But then I think it like actually then turned itself around again, and then I think ended second, maybe.
Yeah,
like
something like that. Yeah.
So you have these twists of fate that are wild, and like maybe with Ready Set Bet, like the horse races, maybe they're like slightly too long for some people. Like you're waiting a long time. It's like this horse, then this horse, and this horse. I love Ready Set Bet. To me, it's pretty flawless.
They kind of have to be long because you can place bets during them, right? Like bets close halfway through the race, so you have to have time to think about that. Or in this, it's like you're doing your bets all at the front. You have your little hidden information, and then you just run the race, and everyone can just appreciate it and laugh. And I don't know. It works out really well.
It does. And like Camel Up has that chaos too, right? Where a camel could wind up, I think if a camel lands on a certain like patch, it goes backwards and winds up under the stack, or some people, it's like there's this element of like, oh no, like this was doing so well, but all of a sudden the white camel's on top now. Blah, blah, you know, you like, there's enough, everything changing, which is, means that like your betting is maybe less, it's more just luck based, but like who cares?
Right. Yeah. You're not, Hot Streak is not a skill based game, but it is a very fun one.
I know.
And one of the best productions I've seen of any game ever. Like,
really
I think
amazing.
Really,
and it has something
really
I've
wonderful.
never seen in a game, which is that the racetrack is actually like some sort of like vinyl banner that you pull out of the box. Like, I don't know how to, it's almost like a vertical, it's almost like a blind. It's like, you know, when you have like a blind that you pull down in front of your window, it's like that, but coming out of a box. And I've never seen that. And it is such a clever and smart way of packaging a board into a box.
Yeah, it's a delight. Cause then the box is at the end of the track and it's the podium for the race, which is great.
I love when designers incorporate the box into the board. Like there was a game called Niagara. Did you ever play Niagara?
No, I haven't played Niagara.
Where you're canoeing, like, you know, at the top of Niagara Falls, as one does. Sure. And like the box becomes the board. Like you lay the board like on top of the box or whatever. So if you fall over the waterfalls, you basically fall off the box.
That's great. That's really fun.
Which is really, really fun. So this one does a really good use of like making the box part of the experience.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. And it's available for pre-order right now. So it's on CMYK's website.
I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll order it.
It plays up to 9 players. So
that's
it's a
great
good party
too.
game size. Yeah.
But
it worked well with 5. It didn't feel like it needed 9, you know?
Yeah. And I think if you have more than 9 people, maybe you team up with people and be like, who do we bet on? You know, it's fun times.
Totally.
Well, that was a great day of Twilight Imperium and Hot Streak. And I think that's it. I know that you were going to maybe mention some Clock Tower and maybe a Daggerheart update. And I had a Terraforming Mars update, but they really were not that significant. Just that I played Terraforming Mars again. And your Daggerheart's going well.
My tiny 1 second update for Daggerheart is that I made some terrain for use in my campaign. And there are pictures of it on the Discord if you want to check it out.
Well, everyone should go check out the Game Brain Discord, of course. Jordan, thanks so much for being here. Thanks everyone for listening to Game Brain. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. We're instagram.com/GameBrainPod, and also follow us on YouTube. I also have my side little project, Table Scraps, which is a little video series that you should come on to, Jordan, by the way. I need to have you on as a guest.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
Thanks everyone for being here, and go play some games with friends or make some friends with games.